Week 11 is here, and there's no shortage of rivalries, key matchups, playoff implications, and so much more. I'm Nathan Johnston here with my co-host Brad Hopkins and featured guest once again, Rooster. It's time to break the huddle. Brad, just every week has been fantastic for college football. If you look down at our records, we're all above 500. We're doing pretty good. This past week, Brad and I went 3-3. Rooster went 4-2. Standings as of today, Brad, you're 35-25. I'm 33-27. And Rooster, you are still in the lead just by a slight margin, 38-22. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and comment down below. Really helps grow the channel, and we're excited to be back for another week of previews and predictions with y'all. Let's not waste anyone's time. Let's jump right into it. We've got a really, really good matchup come Saturday afternoon, 12 p.m. kickoff in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the 5-2 Columbia Lions hit the road to take on the 6-1 Harvard Crimson. I believe their mascot is John Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. 12 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. And Brad, we're back in the FCS in the Ivy League. This is the battle of academics, as I like to call it, at Harvard Stadium. Brad, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in Cambridge?
My first thought is if you were in the Boston area, I saw tickets are going for as cheap as $11. So there are still some tickets out there available for this game. So if you want to go see a good college football game and our future lawyers of America, I encourage you to go check out this game. But this is always just a classic one, always so much fun. Columbia, of course, coming in 5-2, Harvard at 6-1. You mentioned that. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet before I turn over to you guys. I'm going to take the Harvard Crimson in this one. Their quarterback, Jaden Craig, has been absolutely fantastic this year. Just looking down at my notes, 18 touchdowns to 2 picks. And they've got a great 1-2 punch at receiver with Barquette and Woods. These two guys have combined for 80 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So this one's in Cambridge. It's at home. Give me the Crimson in this one.
Yeah, Brad, it's hard on these FCS games. There's obviously no spread for FCS games. And as we sit here and look at the matchup, these are two very good programs this year. Harvard and Columbia both leading the way in the Ivy League. I believe both stand 3-1 in the conference. And obviously Columbia at 5-2, Harvard at 6-1 with the slight edge in the overall record. But Rooster, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in the battle of academics?
Well, this is a very even matchup. When you look at the defensive statistics this season, I mean, the yardage per game between these two teams, Columbia is only allowing 12 more yards per game than Harvard. So, I mean, the defenses are very evenly matched. So, and then when you go to look at the scoring defense, Harvard is allowing 5 more points a game than Columbia this season. So, I mean, these teams are really, really evenly matched. So, I'm going to go with the Harvard Crimson in this one because the only common opponent that Harvard and Columbia both have is Dartmouth. And Harvard ended up beating Dartmouth on the road in this one, and Columbia lost the game at home. So I'm going to take the Harvard Crimson in this one, take the home team with the home field advantage.
Both guys going with Harvard. I see where this is heading. To Rooster's point, though, when you look at Columbia's defense, they've had 6 sacks on the season, 7 interceptions, 6 passes defended. They've been really effective on defense. Leading tackler being Rocco Malia with 44 tackles. He's going to be a key to this Columbia Lions defense. And when you look at their pass game, they're actually splitting reps between the two quarterbacks in Chase Goodwin and Cole Freeman. And they've led with Godwin contributing over 800 yards passing and Freeman adding 603 yards. Not a good recipe when you're trying to go on the road into rivalry territory. When you look at the other side of the ball with Harvard, Crimson defense is averaging around 20 points per game giving up, and Harvard's offense is averaging 392 yards per game, split between 786 on rushing and over 1,500 on passing. So they're doing pretty good this year. And then you look at their quarterback and Jaden Craig. Love this guy. Over 1,500 yards and 349 yards rushing to the running back of Xavier Baskin. Pretty cool name there. In the end, guys, I got to agree with you. I think Harvard just has the edge. I think they've got the better roster. And I think with the home field advantage, as crazy as this sounds, and who knows what's going to happen on Saturday, the weather's looking pretty nice for both of these teams. But I think Harvard edges out with the win at home late in the game. Fourth quarter win, maybe wins by 7 to 10 points. Give me the Harvard Crimson in this one. Let us know down in the comments if you're a fan of the Ivy League, if you're excited for some FCS games on Saturday. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in Cambridge, Massachusetts at Harvard Stadium. Let's stay in the state of Massachusetts. Let's head over to Chestnut Hill, just down the road in Alumni Stadium, where the Syracuse Orange come into town to take on the Boston College Eagles. 12 p.m. kickoff on the CW network, Brad's favorite TV network out there. Boston College currently favored by this one at home by 2. Going to be a busy weekend up there in northern Massachusetts, where both of these colleges, I believe, are probably within an hour of each other. So going to be a lot of traffic going on in the Boston area. Brad, when you come into this game, though, Syracuse looked very well starting off the season, and then over the last couple of weeks, they've kind of faded away. They had a really tough loss against Pitt 2 weeks ago, where the Pitt defense just destroyed Syracuse. And can Kyle McCord bounce back? They're averaging 440 yards of offense per game. Is this a game where we see Syracuse come out on top with an upset, or can Boston College lead the way and take one at home?
Yeah, absolutely, Nate. The intriguing thing to me about this game is we've got 2 first-year head coaches in Fran Brown and Bill O'Brien. And, of course, Bill O'Brien's got some head coaching experience, but his first year at Boston College. And these 2 guys have done a good job. BC coming in at 4-4, but Syracuse at 6-2. And you mentioned the game against Pitt a couple weeks ago where Kyle McCord was just awful. I thought he really had a bounce-back game last week as they upset the Virginia Tech Hokies by 7 in overtime. Very intriguing. And guys, this one to me is pretty simple. It's going to come down to the quarterback battle. Thomas Castellanos, who he's a Georgia boy. We're familiar with him. He's from a small town in South Georgia, Ware County. And this guy has got just unbelievable legitimate speed. Can definitely hurt you with his arm, but he makes his money with his legs. And then Kyle McCord, who has been up and down, but I was impressed with how he responded last week. I just think the Syracuse offense is just going to be too much. I guess I'll be honest, it surprised me a little bit that BC is the favorite in this one. I'm going to take the Orange because of Kyle McCord. I'm a really big fan of their running back, LaQuint Allen. He is a very dynamic playmaker, over 600 yards on the ground, over 300 receiving yards. I just think all the weapons Syracuse has is going to be too much for Boston College. So give me Q's in this one.
Yeah, Brad, this is going to be a close game. Regardless of who comes out on top, I think we can expect a very close fourth quarter matchup coming down to the wire, maybe even seeing another overtime like we saw last week with Syracuse. Rooster, I think that's a good segue. Turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game, and can Syracuse come out with the upset?
Well, like y'all both mentioned, it's going to be a close game, but it seemed like towards the beginning of the year, Boston College really came out with their hair on fire, just winning anything and everything. And then they've hit an absolute wall the last couple of weeks. Ever since Castellanos' injury, it seems like they really have not been able to get back on track. And then on the other hand, you've got a Syracuse team that is just loaded on the offensive side of the ball with Gadsden and McCord. And it seems like when Fran Brown came over, he took half of Georgia's receiver room with him, and they've got all the Georgia receivers that hit the portal over there.
Sure.
They've got all them Georgia receivers. So, I mean, they've got the talent to do it. So I just don't see Boston College being able to match Syracuse on the offensive side of the ball. And then the saying that home field usually adds about 3 points to your spread. So if we take off the home field advantage, this is virtually a pick 'em. So at the end of the day, it's just who do you think would who's just the better football team? And I'm going to go with the team that has proven that they can consistently do it over the team that has really been struggling the last couple of weeks. I'm going to take the Syracuse Orange.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I think the better question is who's going to have the higher attendance, Harvard or Boston College? I mean, this is going to be an interesting matchup nonetheless. I think Boston College fans are going to show out for this one. But let's look at these two stat lines I got here on my handy dandy notes, as I like to call them. Syracuse has gotten 18 sacks recorded on the year. That's pretty impressive. Another stat line that I like on the other side is Boston College. They've got 11 interceptions on the year. That scares me when we look at Kyle McCord and how dangerous he's been with turning the ball over. He has not looked like himself over the last couple of last couple of weeks. And last week, they barely got out with a win in overtime. They're exhausted. They had to push a little bit extra. They had to fight a little bit extra. You mentioned the injury to Thomas Castellanos and how much that's affected the Boston College offense. And I think that affects the overall morale of the team. When you have an offensive guy like that who's completing 66% of his passes, 14 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, that makes a big difference when you're stepping out on the field. When we look at Syracuse, they're 30 of 37 in red zone attempts. That's pretty good. So in the end, I'm going to take the Syracuse Orange as well. I've had my fits with Syracuse over the last couple of weeks. They've disappointed me time and time again. I picked against them last week. I lost. I'm picking them this week. We'll see what happens. Probably got y'all a loss on this game because I'm picking them. But in all seriousness, Fran Brown, y'all mentioned it. This just been phenomenal by him. His leadership, emphasizing a relentless mindset. That's been the key to Syracuse's success and how they've been able to bounce back time and time again, even when they've come across adversity. Give me a Syracuse Orange in a close one, but I think Syracuse is going to finish off the year really strong. And I hate it for Boston College, but give me a Syracuse Orange in this one. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, where Syracuse will take on Boston College. Our next game takes us out to the Northwest, where the San Jose State, and I believe they're the Trojans. I could be wrong on that one.
Spartans.
Spartans, same thing. They've got a helmet with feathers on it. So, go on the road to take on the Oregon State Beavers. I know that mascot because they're more prevalent in this game anyways. 3:30 kickoff on CW Network. Once again, Brad just coming through with CW this week. You got to love it. Oregon State favored only by 2.5 in this one at Research Stadium, heading out to Corvallis, Oregon, one of the best college atmospheres in all of the nation, in my opinion. Even though they kind of got left behind in the Pac-12, this could be a new Pac-12 matchup coming up in the next couple of years. Brad, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in this future Pac-12 or Mountain West matchup, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, absolutely, Nate. Want to start with Oregon State. Of course, they lose head coach John Smith, who I know we're a huge fan of here on Break the Huddle, and left them in a little bit of state of they didn't quite know the direction they were going in, and it's been a very, very up and down season for them. They've lost 3 in a row. They're sitting at 4-4, and trying to find an identity. And guys, just looking at their at the season stats and everything, they've defensively only have 5 sacks on the year. So not a great job getting after their quarterback. Their leading passer, McCoy, 1,300 yards, but 3 touchdowns to 6 picks. So very, very up and down. They seem to have what I took as a good 1-2 punch in Hankerson and Griffin at the running back position. But I think Oregon State is very, very much has a identity crisis a little bit. Of course, Jonathan Smith was just very, very much an offensive-minded coach last year. They were hard-nosed, physical, and Oregon State's trying to figure it out. Jumping over to San Jose State, guys, this is an interesting team to me. Brent Brennan, of course, really did a good job building up this program and this team, and then he bolted for Arizona. And Guys, they to me made a little bit of an under the radar hire, but a guy that if you're a college football fan, you know who he is, and I'm going to butcher his last name, but Ken Nima Lola, the former Navy head coach, and I thought it was a really really intriguing hire. I mean, he is has not coached in the out west. He was at Navy for since 2002. He did become a part of UCLA staff next year, but they hire him, and I think everyone's thinking, okay, San Jose State's going to run a triple option. And what does he do? He goes and hires Craig Stutzman, who spent last year at Texas State to run, pretty much an air raid offense. So San Jose State can absolutely throw the ball just all over the yard. Sorry, get my notes pulled up here, but I'm really, really impressed with their passing attack. Their quarterback, Emmett Brown, he's not the biggest guy, but he does a good job of just distributing the ball. 16 touchdowns to 5 picks this year. They have got an unbelievable receiver, guys. This blows my mind. Nick Nash, and I mean, we're towards the last third of the season, but guys, 80 catches, 995 yards, 12 touchdowns. I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. For that reason, I'm taking the Spartans in an upset here. I just think this offense is going to be too much. I think San Jose State's defense comes up with some stops, and I'm taking the Spartans in this one.
Wow, Brad, going with the upset in this one. I like it. And to your point, San Jose State averaging 42 points per game on offense coming into this game. So they've proven themselves on offense. Can they prove themselves on defense? I think that's a good transition, Rooster. Who do you have coming out on top in Corvallis? Is it going to be the upset, or is it going to be the home favorite in Oregon State?
Well, similar to Boston College, Oregon State is another team that has really been on the rails the last couple of weeks. They're having a very tough stretch as of late. And then, I was looking at some of the common matchups, and Oregon State lost to Nevada. That's just unacceptable for a supposed Pac-12 team. And then on the other hand, you've got San Jose State, who has beaten Nevada. They have a win for the common matchups, and this is a future Pac-12 rivalry that we are witnessing this weekend.
Sure. Great matchup.
And then, as Brad mentioned, San Jose State with the pass-heavy offense, but also when they need to, they are able to run the ball. Even in the tough weekend, even in the tough game against Fresno State 2 weeks ago, they still were able to average 5 yards a carry on the ground. So while they are a pass-heavy team, when it comes to down to the nit and gritty of the football game, San Jose State can get the job done when they need to. So I'm going to take San Jose State in this one. Both teams are coming off of byes, and they both have time to prepare. And then I'm going to take the team that's just been a much more consistent, the team that has not lost their entire offense over the last year, with Oregon State losing Martinez, losing Uiagalelei, losing half of their offensive line. I'm going to take the Spartans in this one to come out on top.
Yeah, guys, this is a tough one for me because when I look at my handy-dandy notes right here, I mentioned that San Jose State is averaging 42 points a game. They're allowing 340 yards per game on defense. Then you jump over to Oregon State side, to Rooster's point. They're rebuilding. Like, we can talk about them being a Pac-12 team or a quote-unquote Pac-12 team, but they got absolutely ransacked. They lost their coach. They lost their quarterback, 2 quarterbacks at that, who followed him over to Michigan State and Childs. And this is a team that I think is fighting. They're fighting for a spot in the future Pac-12. And when you look at their stats, they're not bad. Their opponents are only averaging about 48% on third down conversions, which is pretty good on defense for a team who lost their head coach. On offense, they're averaging 186 yards rushing and 198 through the air. Again, they're averaging about 27 points per game on offense, which is not great, not great compared to San Jose State. But you have to think the level of competition has just been slightly better. In the end, though, I'm gonna pull I don't know what I'm gonna pull, but in the end, I think I gotta agree with you guys. I think that San Jose State is just a more stable program at this point, and I wanted so badly to pick Oregon State, but I just have to go with my gut and pick the upset here, go with San Jose State. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be really close. I think Oregon State's going to come out swinging. They're playing on the CW network, so they got something to play for. But in the end, I think San Jose State edges out and takes the win by a field goal. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in this future Pac-12/Mountain West matchup in Corvallis, Oregon. Our next game takes us out to the great state of Texas in Lubbock, Texas, where the number 20 Colorado Buffaloes come into town to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. 4 p.m. kickoff on Fox, primetime game, pun intended once again. Colorado currently favored in this one by 3.5 points heading into Jones AT&T Stadium, which Rooster, we found out a few weeks ago, it is not owned or sponsored by Jerry Jones. So we got proven wrong in the comments, but hey, that's what the fans are for, right? They're there to provide us with more insightful information that we, boots on the ground on the East Coast, may not be able to get to in the Midwest. So thank you for that in the comments. Let's move right along. This is a big matchup for these two teams. Big matchup. And Texas Tech has been struggling. Colorado as a state is heating up, but Colorado Buffs specifically with Dion Prime Time, they're just rolling, man, and they've proven everyone wrong, and I'll admit it. Rooster has admitted it. Brad has admitted it. We all thought these guys don't stand a chance. Now we head into this game on Saturday afternoon where we could be looking at the future Big 12 champion if they're able to come out on top in this game and move forward with their goals still in front. Brad, I'll turn it over to you with thoughts on this game, and can Colorado steal one on the road, heading back to their hometown in Colorado to continue on their way to the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, absolutely, Nate. And first off, you hit the nail on the head. Hats off to Dion, and what a job he's done this year. And I was a doubter. I thought Colorado could definitely be bowl eligible this year, but he has done a fantastic job sitting at number 20, 6-2, and definitely an inside track to make the Big 12 championship. Dion has done a great job. I think, for as much attention as he gets and that program gets, they have really, really made some big time improvements on both sides of the football. But guys, it helps when you have an unbelievable talent in Travis Hunter and an unbelievable talent in Shedeur Sanders. That Colorado offense is unbelievable. Hunter, Shepard, Wester, and Jimmy Horn, an unbelievable 1-4 punch there. Guys, I will say something that I think is going to eventually bite Colorado is the lack of the running game. Their leading rusher has only got 271 yards on the year. So I think Colorado is going to have to continue to show some balance as best they can. But they're right now they're living and dying by the passing game. Jumping over to Texas Tech, we've talked about Texas Tech several times here. I am just a huge fan of Joey McGuire, what he is doing. I really love their quarterback, Baron Morton, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks on the year. Guys, we talk about it every week. This is once again another fantastic quarterback showdown. The X factor, though, to me is Taj Brooks. Guys, he's already got 1,000 yards on the year. He's physical at 230 pounds. He's been great, guys. Last week, and of course, Texas Tech upset Iowa State on the road. He rushed for 122 yards and a touchdown. I think he's the X factor. Texas Tech has got a very formidable running game, but when you add in, Texas Tech has a very formidable passing game, but when you add in this guy, it takes it to a whole different dimension. So I know I'm going to make some Colorado fans mad with this, but I'm taking the Red Raiders in an upset. This one is in Lubbock. This one's in Lubbock. That place is going to be explosive, and I think Texas Tech being more balanced is going to make the difference in this one. Give me the Red Raiders.
Wow, Brad, I was not expecting that pick from you. Wow, going with the upset in Texas Tech, but hey.
And I will say, if I'm wrong, Colorado fans, I know I'll get blasted in the comments. That's okay. I will eat crow next week. That's totally fine.
All right, you've heard it. Flip it. Brad will eat crow.
Do we need to go buy some?
Well, figure it out. I'm sure they've got some sort of candy or something online that we get from Amazon. But no, Rooster. I mean, this is such an intriguing matchup, and I want to turn it over to you to get your thoughts and your pick. But these two teams, they're fighting. They're still fighting for a Big 12 spot. I mean, it's still up for grabs. Whether you put it here or there, we know that BYU leads the way. They're the number 4 spot in the playoff rankings as stands that we've just gotten live here at Break the Huddle Studios. Just got it in my earpiece from our sources. But Rooster, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game, and do you have Colorado coming out with the win, or do you also have the upset?
Well, I'm not going to lie. Everything in me wanted to follow Brad in this one. I love Taj Brooks as a running back. Colorado's defense, they last year would have let Taj Brooks run for 375 yards on them. But this season, it just seems that their defense, while it may not be the Georgia level of defense or the Oregon level of defense, it has stepped up significantly compared to what it has been.
Sure.
And then as I kept digging into my research, the one thing I could not ignore is that the Texas Tech defense is second to dead last place in passing yards allowed per game, which is just unacceptable for a Power 5, Power 4 team in the Big 12 to be second to last in anything. You would think that would be a Central Michigan or whatever you want to name out there in the G5, but with Colorado, with Jimmy Horn, with Shepard, with Hunter, with Wester, they've just got an unlimited bounty of resources at the receiver position. And then you've got a top 5 quarterback in the country. So I'm going to have to go Colorado in this one. I just wanted to find a reason just to pick Texas Tech, and I just couldn't. So I'm going to take the Buffaloes in this one.
Yeah, guys, this is a great matchup either way you look at it. Texas Tech has a shot. Colorado has a shot. This is going to be a shootout, guys. Both of these offenses are high-flying. Both of these defenses are struggling tremendously. And when you look at Colorado offensively, the one thing that's impressed me the most is Shedeur Sanders. And I get it, like he's going to have the most media hype around him being Deion's son. But he's completing 73.3% of his passes this year. That's incredible. Regardless of what conferences he's in, regardless of who he's playing against, that's hard to do. He's got over 2,500 yards passing. He's averaging 8.6 yards per pass. You know what that tells me, Rooster? You know what that tells me, Brad? That tells me that offensive line is stepping it up. That tells me that he's getting more time in the pocket, and even if he's not, he's able to adjust, read the play correctly, get out, and make something happen, which is something that he's struggled with. Now, am I saying that the offensive line is as good as Oregon's, as good as some of these teams in the SEC, as good as Ohio State? Probably not. But we cannot let go of the fact that he's completing 73% of his passes. That's so hard to do. To Brad's point, I think Texas Tech has the home field advantage in this one. I think that's maybe why Colorado isn't favored by more. And to Rooster's point, the passing defense has been atrocious for Texas Tech. And if they can't get Shedeur on the ground, it's going to be a long afternoon/night, depending on when the game ends, for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. In the end, I'm going to take the Colorado Buffs. I just think they have the more dominant offense in this one, and I think Shedeur and that high-flying offense they're just going to be able to make a few more plays than the Texas Tech Red Raiders, but it's going to be a close one either way. It's a toss-up in Lubbock, Texas. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in this Big 12 key matchup come Saturday afternoon between Texas Tech and Colorado. Let's head out to Missoula, Montana, where the 8-1 UC Davis, and I am drawing a blank on their mascot, but UC Davis, I believe they're the Cougars. I could be wrong.
The Aggies.
Aggies. I knew it was some animal. go on the road to take on the 7-2 Montana Grizzlies. 10:15 kickoff on Saturday night, a late one for us to stay up on the East Coast on ESPN2. Guys, so this is an ESPN2 game, which means ESPN and all the other media people know that this is going to be a great game. So be sure to tune in. Washington Grizzlies Stadium, as I mentioned, in Missoula, Montana. We've talked about the Grizzlies a lot last year at Break the Huddle. Brad and I were very high on them in the FCS playoffs later on in the year. But this is a newcomer for us, the UC Davis Aggies, 8-1. They're actually leading Montana in that division. Brad, I'll turn it over to you. This is a really exciting FCS matchup that the fans are going to be highly anticipating. Thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in Missoula, Montana?
First of all, if you get a chance to watch this one, even if it's just for 3 series, if you just watch FBS football, I encourage you to watch this one. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. These are 2 really, really good FCS programs, and that's a beautiful stadium out in Missoula, Montana.
Absolutely.
And right now showing 38 degrees, so it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
It's going to be chilly, but it's a beautiful in a beautiful setting. Guys, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Of course, we don't know a whole lot, but doing my research, one thing that stood out to me, that is that UC Davis has got an explosive offense. Hastings, their quarterback, 23 touchdowns to just 6 picks on the year. And then Larison, their running back, 10 touchdowns on the year. He's closing in on 1,000 yards. I'm impressed with UC Davis. I watched a little bit of film on them just to kind of get a feeling. They have got a very, very good offense. I'm going to take the UC Davis Aggies on the road in Missoula, Montana on Saturday night.
Great pick, Brad. Great pick. And Rooster, there's no spread on this game, so this is a toss-up for us. It could go either way. 8-1 versus 7-2. Home field advantage slightly goes to Montana. As Brad and I mentioned, just a beautiful stadium, a beautiful scenery around it. And to Brad's point, perfect weather for football. 38 degrees at 10:15 at night. I guess that would be on the East Coast, so you're a few hours behind up there in Mountain Time. But regardless, it's just going to be spectacular. Not sure, Brad, if it says there's snow in the forecast, but that'd be something special as well. Could see some frozen rain nonetheless up in Montana. But look, Montana's used to it. Rooster, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game? And this is a new matchup for you coming on the show this year. You haven't really seen Montana as much as Brad and I have.
Well, in this game, it's really going to be a high scoring game. UC Davis has an absolutely lethal offense, averaging 324 passing yards a game. They're averaging almost 100 yards more passing through the air than Montana this season. And one thing that really stood out to me is the margin of victory that UC Davis has had in their similar opponents to Montana. UC Davis has outscored its common opponents by 46 points between them and Montana, which is a very, very high number. And then another thing to take into consideration, UC Davis has won every game they're supposed to win this year. Their only loss being on the road at Cal to start the season, which is something that nobody's going to hold against them. They've taken care of everybody in the FCS they've played against. So even with the windy, the cold, the chilly temperatures in this game, I'm going to take UC Davis on the road to get the job done in this one.
Yeah, guys, and UC Davis, they're used to the cold weather. I believe that school is located in Northern California, and I could be completely wrong, but they're used to this cooler climate. So, I mean, and again, it's different in Montana, but nonetheless, you look at UC Davis's rushing game. Y'all mentioned the high-flying passing game. How about Lan Larison, leading rusher for the team, 964 yards on 185 carries, 10 touchdowns. That's pretty impressive through 9 games. And when you look at their defense, they've got 134 combined tackles, and they've got 9 sacks. Biggest thing on defense for UC Davis is they've got 11 interceptions, including 1 pick six on the year. That's pretty dang good as well. Jumping over to Montana, this has been a team that, as I mentioned time and time again, me and Brad have been really high on. The program is in good hands. They rank 46th in the nation, not just FCS, in all of college football. They rank 46th in averaging only giving up 24.3 points per game. Their defense is stout, guys. 46th in the nation, not just FCS, total college football. That's pretty impressive. I don't care who you're going up against. That's really, really impressive. Big guy to watch out for on Montana's defense. Defensive end Harris, 8 sacks. That combines up to 70 sack yards. 70 sack yards on 8 sacks. And then cornerback Odlewski. I hope I pronounced that right. That's a pretty impressive name if you ask me. That's all you need to know about that. Don't know why y'all are laughing because, hey, look, that guy could probably pick you off in a heartbeat, Rooster. But nonetheless, in the end, both of these teams have great offense, great defense. This is going to be a fantastic FCS matchup. In the end, I'm going to go with UC Davis as well. I was really close to picking Montana with the home field advantage. I think all three of us could wake up Sunday morning and be wrong about this game because Montana's going to put up a fight. This is going to go either way. This is a coin flip, literally. This is going to be a really, really great game to watch. And if you can stay up late enough, be sure to check it out, especially if you're on the Pacific Coast. You have no excuse. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in this key FCS matchup come Saturday night in Missoula, Montana. And that brings us to the game of the week. The Holy War played in Salt Lake City, Utah this year, where the number 9 BYU Cougars come into town at Rice-Eccles Stadium to take on the Utah Utes. Another 10:15 p.m. kickoff on ESPN, primetime game, as I like to call it. BYU currently favored in this one by 4 on the road. The number 9 team in the nation, number 4 ranked playoff team overall. This is going to be a heck of a game any way about it. And even though the Utah Utes are down this year, you got to expect them to come out swinging in this one in a highly heated rivalry game in the Holy War up in Utah. Brad, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this big marquee rivalry matchup and who comes out on top to win the Holy War?
Guys, what stands out to me about this game is, going into the season, Utah was up there with probably Oklahoma State as one of the favorites in the Big 12. BYU, I don't remember off the top of my head where they were picked, but I would say, they were probably in the bottom half, and it's been just total opposites for this team. And you're talking about BYU's undefeated at this point. Utah is sitting at 500 with maybe a chance to miss out on a bowl game, and just really, really an interesting season. Of course, Utah has been just undone by another injury to Cam Rising. Guys, I think a storyline that I'm going to be watching closely as we're starting to get into late November and December soon is this Kyle Whittingham's last year. Of course, they've got a head coach in waiting there. This could be it. I'm not saying it, but I'm curious as that's maybe a storyline that we're talking about. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Utah has struggled at the quarterback position. Zach Wilson's little brother Isaac has struggled. And guys, the biggest stat that stood out to me for BYU, 14 interceptions as a team. And they've got a couple of defensive ends with a pick. I mean, that is really, really something. Rice-Eccles is going to be it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be electric. I think this is a low-scoring defensive game. I think BYU makes some mistakes, but I ultimately think BYU's defense, they just do a great job of forcing turnovers. I think they force Wilson into a few picks more than likely. One of those being late in the fourth quarter, and the Cougars get a road win Saturday night.
Yeah, Brad, this is an intriguing matchup. And you mentioned Isaac Wilson, brother of Zach Wilson, who was the quarterback at BYU, later drafted by the Jets, I believe, 2nd overall, and now he's kind of had his downfall. He's back in, I think he's in Denver now with the Broncos. But you almost have to wonder, is this a show-out game for Isaac? I mean, if there's any game that he needs to get up for, it's this game, right? He chose Utah over BYU. His brother went to BYU. A lot of bragging rights at stake. This is a big, big matchup for him alone. Rooster, I'll turn it over to you. Can BYU get it done on the road, or does Utah come out on top at home with the upset?
Well, as Brad mentioned, I think preseason, before the season started, you could swap these two teams' seasons and nobody would have ever second guessed it. I thought Utah coming into the Big 12, getting away from the teams like the UCLA and the USC and the Oregon, I thought Utah would be able to go in there, and I thought they could almost create a little mini dynasty because of the much weaker competition and how well their prestige has been known around the country for having the strong defense and just been able to get the job done. But their season this year has been a complete disaster compared to what we thought before the season started. Cam Rising, it seems like he has been a game time decision for 3 years now, and they finally have just pulled the plug on him for the season. And this is really, as Nate mentioned over here, this is really Isaac Wilson's prove it moment. And I'm just going to be honest. Come at me in the comments, people. I just can't see BYU finishing the season undefeated. They will lose a game this season. And as all these Alabama fans mention how they're always somebody up to Super Bowl, well, let me tell you something. This is Utah's Super Bowl this season because they have already been eliminated from the playoff. They've been eliminated from the Big 12 championship game. So they are throwing all their chips on the table this weekend. Expect some trick plays. Expect some exotic blitzes. They are going to go all out in this game. And I think that Utah's going to come out on top in this one. This is their Super Bowl. They've got nothing else left this season other than what? The Independence Bowl. That's what they're playing for.
Wow. I was not expecting that pick, Rooster. And to your point, Rooster, this is Utah's game of the year. This is it. Isaac Wilson, Utah, they've got one shot to prove themselves to their fans, to their athletic director. You mentioned, Brad, this could be the head coach's last year. I can't imagine him going out like this. Maybe he retires. I can't see him getting fired, though, especially with the situation in Cam Rising. You've got to get another quarterback in there next year because I don't think Isaac Wilson is going to be your guy for the future. I think he might transfer out. But nonetheless, I got 2 words for you guys in this game. Jake Retzlaff. He has been fantastic this year. Hasn't been elite, but he's been good enough for BYU, completing 59% of his passes, 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. BYU is one of those teams that just finds a way to win. You hear it all the time. You'll have teams that find a way to lose, and you'll have teams that find a way to win. BYU has a winning culture. They're going to find a way to win this game. I'm taking BYU on the road to cover the spread. I think they win by 10 points. And guys, this is some marketing grab for you guys. How about Mazel Tov Mormons? I mean, you got a Jewish quarterback playing at a Mormon school right there on the front T-shirt. Mazel Tov Mormons. That's BYU's latest NIL grab. So Mazel Tov to BYU fans and Mazel Tov to Jake Retzlaff, whatever your name is. This is going to be not even close. Give me BYU big in the Holy War. And technically, I guess you could say it's 3 whatever religions going on at once with this Holy War. So Mazel Tov Mormons. And that's it for this week. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in the Holy War in Salt Lake City, Utah. We'll be back next week for Week 12 previews and predictions. A lot of key matchups still to come that you will not want to miss out on. We'll see you next week. It's time to break the huddle.